We're going to talk about this even further and bring in North Carolina Republican Congressman and member of the House Ways and Means Committee, Congressman Greg Murphy. Congressman Murphy, great to have you here.
Good afternoon, Anna.
So right off the top, what do you make of Trump's meeting with Trudeau at Mar-a-Lago last night?
You know, I think Anna, I love what he's doing because he's stirring it up a little bit because we've had no trade initiatives in the last 4 years. I'm on Ways and Means and on the Trade Subcommittee, and we've done nothing. I mean, this administration has done nothing for trade. And what President Trump is trying to do is to use the real bully pulpit that he has to get things good for American workers and also try to solve this disastrous immigration crisis that the Biden-Harris administration created. Also to try to work on the fentanyl crisis. A lot of different issues have to be tied back to where he can use his bully pulpit, and that's the dollar. That's tariffs, that's trade. And I think when all is said and done, just like with the USMCA, it will come out to be a good deal for everybody. One that solves the immigration crisis, helps us with fentanyl, and is really good for American workers.
Well, look, the economy was issue number one, immigration number two. I think we're noticing how much the two are really tied to one another. But people voted Trump into office largely because they wanted their bills to go down, not to go up. You don't have any concerns that prices will start to go up on a lot of goods if we instill these tariffs?
Well, I think inflation, fortunately, is heading in the right direction. I think as us cutting some of the huge expenses that we're having from the Biden administration, EVs, student loans, and all this other stuff is going to help dial back some of that needless spending, which should help also on inflation. Again, this is a negotiating tool. I don't want to see tariffs for the sake of tariffs. I don't want to see tariffs used for revenue streams to help deal with tax cuts. I don't think that's the right thing for it. But it is part of what the president has to use as a negotiating tool to help get things better for the United States. I have no problem with it in that regard.
No, swift action. He's not even at the White House yet. NewsNation did speak to Democratic Congressman and member of the House Armed Services Committee, John Garamendi, earlier today about his concerns. Let's listen to that, and then I'll let you react.
Sure.
With Canada and Mexico, I think he better be careful. I was looking at and listening to the president of Mexico. I have a feeling that woman's not going to be pushed around, and certainly Trudeau's been around long enough.
And we also heard from President Biden yesterday in a rare sort of appearance. He took questions from reporters, and he said he would hope that the president-elect would rethink these tariffs as well. Do you worry this could hurt our relationships with our biggest trading partners?
No, I don't. This is, again, we go back to negotiating. And look, the president in Mexico has made it very clear that she's not really pro-American in so many regards, and she is much more of a socialist. Look, she has a duty to get control of her southern border, so we can get control of our southern border. I have no issue with President Trump using whatever he can to try to get our operational control back away from drug cartels, which the Biden-Harris administration has allowed to happen. No, we want a good partner in Mexico. We want a good partner in Canada. We will have good partners. We have so much in common and so much to benefit from. But every once in a while, you have to lay down the law and say, look, this is what America's all about. This is what we need in America. And this is how you can help us. And at the same time, we can help you.
Yeah, well, we just had pictures on the screen of Scheinbaum, and we see Mexico threatening retaliatory tariffs. You know, the readout, the sort of takeaways from the meeting that they just had this past week were very different from Trump and Scheinbaum. Do you see this as a negotiating tactic as well, that Trump is doing sort of manipulation through the media?
Well, that's what the president is well known for so many different times, that he uses that as a part of the armamentarian. But I think, again, we pull back. And, you know, remember when President Trump went over and said NATO people aren't paying their way, and the same thing at the UN? There was a lot of fluster, this, that, and the other stuff. But guess what happened? People started paying their way. President Trump has a way of negotiating deals. Sometimes they're tough at first, tough to swallow, some of the terms that get put out in the media. But then eventually it comes down to things that are very manageable for both sides.
Well, it's a tall order getting immigration under control, too. And he seems to really be trying to turn up the dial on day one, as he promised in his campaign to make good on that campaign promise. If you don't mind, let's switch gears onto this. Top House and Senate Republican lawmakers are divided over Trump's new $4.6 trillion tax cut plan. Where do you stand on it?
I think we're part of that. Again, Ways and Means. This is what we've been head deep in for the last year. We're looking at ways that we can put tax incentives to grow a good economy. But at the same time, we also have to understand President Biden added $6.5 trillion to our deficit over his term. And so we have to get our deficit spending under control. I'm not for tariffs as a way to generate income to help deal with some of these tax breaks. I think there are a lot of different things that need to go back, and we need to sit back and take back the the TCJA and look back at again what worked, what didn't work, what is the best tax-friendly policy that we can put forth to the American people, which at the same time does not grow our debt.
Yeah, well, our next president added a pretty penny to the deficit as well. Somebody eventually is going to have to deal with it. You know, yeah. I imagine, you know, with the job that you have, you want to rein in spending, don't you?
I do. And, you know, there's so much needless. You look at the student loan debacle, which was $600–700 billion. You look at the immigration crisis, $600 and $700–800 billion. So many of the different things that happened during this last administration, which are low-hanging fruit, things that we can get to. It's going to cost a lot of money to deport these people who shouldn't be here illegally. And just think of the savings that never needed to happen. The money never needed to be spent anyway. There are a lot of things, Anna, that we can do to bring in spending in a good way. And also, you know, we have to get our nation back on the road of fiscal responsibility. That is what conservatives stand for. That is what we stand for, fiscal responsibility. And I think there's a way to do that with our tax code.
I wish I had time to ask you about Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, but we got to switch gears to this final question here. You know, it's been 2 months since our home state of North Carolina was hit by Hurricane Helene. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina as well, so I'm close to it like you. And some locals just continue feeling helpless, and some even saying that government needs to do more. Let's take a listen to this first.
This is a call from the U.S. Small Business Administration about your SBA disaster loan application. Due to a lapse in congressional funds, new loan offers will be delayed until Congress provides additional funding for the disaster loan program. We understand how frustrating this delay is.
We have our Brian Enton doing some exclusive reporting there in the western part of our state. And temperatures are dropping. People are looking for shelter. How can Congress ensure that these residents have a warm bed to sleep in at night as they rebuild?
Yeah, this is our job. This is to help rebuild that. I find that the fact that the agency's pushing it back on Congress is a little bit sad. Instead of playing the blame game, you know, I looked at your segment earlier. We have people that are not intense, are still intense. We have people in the state of North Carolina that are still in hotels from 2016. Governor Cooper in North Carolina was given money to manage the disaster from Matthew in 2016, and we still have people 8 years later not taken care of. I fear the same type of disaster here because of bureaucracy, because of red tape. I think, again, this is a target-rich area for government to do the right thing. It's going to take a while to make everybody whole. It sure will. Utter devastation, as you well know, Anna. But the fact that people are playing finger-pointing already within government agencies is ridiculous. It's not helping people.
Well, you know, and the media was so concerned about whether they could vote, and we obviously, that is such an important thing for us to be able to do, but basic needs as well. And we will not forget about those folks in Western North Carolina. Republican Congressman Greg Murphy, thank you so much for your time.